Hello.
Hello, my name's Duncan, and this is Lilu. Lilu, hello, my little nugget, who wanted to join me. And that noise down there is little Pomnus, Ruby the Pom, who, if you see a video before this, you may have noticed. Careful, don't jump on her. But yes, my name's Duncan, and welcome to Back Away from Talking About Books with me and this face of dogs. Okay, and if Lilu, my fifth element, Lilu is. Hey, aren't you, girl? Aren't you? Yeah? You put your big Sharpie muzzle in the way. Big wrinkly girl. Anyway, let's get on. I'm recording lots of videos and they seem to involve a lot of dogs at the moment. So, my question is haven't we all learnt something from Dick Van Dyke? Why have people not learnt from Dick Van Dyke? You wonder what I'm on about. Well, this is sort of part of Horror Mayhem. I've gone totally off-piste because officially it is Decades of Dread from 1880 to 1950. Well, the story I'll be talking about in a few videos down the line will be from 36 or 37, so about 40 years before, and this one's from 1980, and I'm talking about now. So, if you don't know, Horror Mayhem was all the details about Horror Mayhem will put below, and tag everybody who's hosts and co-hosts. It's originally done by the Bookish Bryants, and it's all in memory of Scott Bryant, a wonderful member of the BookTube community. And we'll keep going. But yes, so this is my first video on Horror Mayhem. I wasn't planning on doing huge amounts of books, and I'm going to do a complete one on this book. But this is one of the ones I'm reading. Was New Tales of the Cthulhu Mythos, published in 1980. With this very sort of, I think what was described clickbaity cover. Great illustration by Tim White, but I'm not sure about the appropriateness of it. And it's got loads of stories. First place they were published based around the idea of Lovecraft's Cthulhu stories. But I was going to wait until I'd finished this and talk about the whole lot. But I want to talk about the first story, which is a Stephen King story called Crouch End. And I've just discovered it was actually adapted into something in the late 90s into some TV series. I've got a couple of notes here because I can't remember everything about it. But my main thing about it is meant to be set in Crouch End in London, which is North London, if you don't know London at all. And as it's set there, you've got two policemen, and this lady comes in called Doris, what's her surname? Freeman. And basically her husband's disappeared and she's totally hysterical. And it's the policeman talking around, and this story comes out about how her husband disappeared. And the first thing I'm going to pick up is my Dick Van Dyke quote at the beginning is, when I read this story, my initial theory was that Stephen King had never been to London or Crouch End. But apparently this story I looked about afterwards is actually based on when he went to visit Peter Straub, who lives in Crouch End apparently, and he got lost. So, yeah, you learn something new every day. But the way they set it, it feels like you're trying to make Crouch End sound like a little village, but for God's sake, it's only 8 kilometres-ish from 8 to 10 kilometres, which is about 5-6 miles away from the centre of London. It's part of Greater London, so it's not that remote. It really is not remote in any shape or form. But what got me was the use of language. So obviously Stephen King's an American, and he's trying to convey Britishness across in the language. And he's gone down to the Dick Van Dyke school of accents and words. He's using the word, it really grated on me, the way he used the word fag which is a colloquial slang term for cigarette, but it's not really used that much. It really isn't. But he used it a hell of a lot in this. And then he used the swear word wanker a few times, which is obviously a cuss word in British English. But it was just the way it was phrasing it. It sounded really took me out of the story. And the story is not a bad one. I'm not really up on Stephen King short stories. and I've not read the rest of them, obviously. Well, I've started reading the rest of them in this collection. But the story is, as I said, the woman comes into the police station, and the story is about her husband disappears. They looking for this house, for this potential employer, her and her husband, and they can't find it, and they get out of the taxi and they try to find a phone box to phone them. Phone boxes, remember phone boxes? They were great. And as they're doing that, their taxi driver disappears, and it's them wandering around, and it's all H.P. Lovecraft sort of Cthulhu-y weirdness. That everything's incredibly slow and just weird stuff happens, and everybody ends up being terrified after seeing stuff. It's, you know, it's quite typical Lovecraft type feelings in there. But the use of the language just pulled me out of it. It's worth a read, but I found it really strange, and I've had other books like this, and I just wonder whether other people had that, and that's what I mainly wanted to do a video about. Less about the sort of horror mayhem, more about the use of language and the use of slang terminology from a place that you're not from. I know you don't always write about where you've been and what you do and what you know. That's why research is there. But it just sort of grated on me a hell of a lot. So I'd be interested in other people's books that the use of language has taken them out because they know how the language goes. But yeah, Crouch End, I said, it's part of that collection. That's where it was first published, 1980. And it's appeared in a few places since then. Obviously, like I said, it's not your typical King fare because it's sort of taken on the idea of Lovecraft's Cthulhu mythos. But yeah, I think it could have been a lot better if that hadn't taken me out of it. I read somewhere some people saying it was the best story in the books, but for me that's lost marks just because of that use of language. It does get quite creepy towards the end. It's worth a read, quite creepy towards the end. So this isn't really a review, it's more about a comment on the use of language. Does that make sense? I don't know what I'm talking about. Anyway, I will leave you all for the moment, and I will speak to you very soon, and I'm going to now go and try and do a video that's going to make more sense than this one.